Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Shahin Ghadir with another episode of the Fertile Life podcast. I am very excited about my guest today, the Dr. Sheila Nazarian from the Nazarian Plastic Surgery Institute, which I just like to add the word institute, if you haven't noticed, is here with us today. A dear friend that I have known most of my life, someone that I have a lot of respect for. Welcome, and thank you for joining me.
That was a great intro. Way to go.
Thank
you so much.
Well, I'm really honored, and I've been really looking forward to being able to talk to you. Everywhere I go, people are talking about you. Always great things.
I'm just going to carry salt and throw it up in the air.
Everyone
spit on me.
No one's jinxing you. Everyone adores you. I think everyone's proud of you. I just told my nurses that I was going to do my podcast with you, and they were like, "Oh my God, I love her." So you have a lot of fans, probably more than you even realize.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans. It needs to be balanced with a lot of haters. So I always tell people you can't have people love you without being a little bit polarizing. So I think you have to accept a little bit of hate if you want to be beloved.
Well, I just don't think that you can purely be loved by every single person in the world either.
Amen.
And especially if you are a strong, outspoken human being like yourself that stands up for things, there's always going to be the opposite side that thinks differently than we do. And we've seen that clearly.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's just part of the growth process as you begin to first hear your voice, realize you have a voice, and then dig into your voice, and then to actually amplify your voice. I think, it's especially being a Persian woman. I think you're brought up to just be a people pleaser and just want to be patted on the head and told what a good girl you are your whole life. But I think it takes a little bit of maturity and some life experience to really sort of grow into your core values and be able to voice them strongly.
I love that. I love that so much. So I rarely do this, but I want to make sure I don't forget to talk about a bunch of things. So I do want you to start. I like to sometimes ask my guests if I'm in the mood, and today I'm really in the mood to ask this question about what you're the most proud of that you do. And there's so many things that you do that there's I'm just going to, maybe you can pick top 2, maybe even 3, because you do a lot of things that I'm proud of you for.
Thank you.
I'm just very curious, when you think of you and someone is walking by you, what do you want that person to be walking by you that takes a little glance at you to think about?
I mean, there's so many things, right? I feel like, everyone is so multifaceted, and I think you have to sort of dig into all of the things that you're passionate about in order to make you feel whole and fulfilled. So I would say number 1 is family. I'm very proud of my marriage. I'm very proud of my children. I have 3 kids, 14, 13, and 10. So I'm in the thick of the teenage years, but very proud of them, very proud of their independence, their intelligence, their confidence. I love reliving, getting a second chance at the high school years through my kids. I think it's hilarious. I mean, came from Iran, and we really didn't have that sort of, I think, mentorship in dating, or mentorship in fashion, or mentorship in bullying, or how to handle certain situations. So I feel like now, having, been in America for most of my life, I'm able to give that sort of insight
so true.
To my kids.
I never really looked at it that way, but
right?
You're right.
I mean, I wasn't even allowed to shave my legs, right? So I was walking around all hairy.
That's not funny, because I have a lot of close friends that to this day are traumatized. As many of them have told me, the day I see one hair on my daughter's legs or upper lip, it will be gone. There is
or the unibrow.
Because I just don't know why.
Because
the
I'll
poor
tell
girls
you why.
in our community were tortured that way.
Because if you shave your legs, who are you trying to shave your legs for? Are you going to be promiscuous? What does that mean? Who are you trying to be sexy for? I think that's what it was.
But I think you could be, well, a lot of things have changed now.
Yeah.
In terms of self-hygiene and
yes.
Self-decor.
Right. I think we look at it more as self-care and being tidied up and Marie Kondo our physical selves.
Exactly.
But that's not what it was like. So I think that's one thing I'm really proud of is family and my kids. The other thing is just helping people every day, as you do as well. I think it's gratifying. It's not the only thing that gratifies me. And I think if I was only being, a plastic surgeon, it wouldn't fully gratify me. But that is very gratifying that my patients are, super intelligent, successful, bright, fun, I always tell them I don't get out much, so my clinic is my social hour. And so I really just enjoy my patients and I enjoy those relationships. And then finally, just the recent, within the last couple of years, activism fighting racism against Jews and Jew hatred. I think, we all had to leave Iran to a certain extent because of persecution. And I think that we owe it to our parents who left everything to bring us here, to give us that opportunity to sort of stand up for our people and make sure that that sort of, evolution does not happen in the United States.
Well, those three things that you said about yourself are things that I'm very proud of you as well for. And I definitely want to touch base on a couple of those. The show is called The Fertile Life because balancing a family and today's life has been one of the most challenging things for people out there. I think for a female physician that also has to play the role of a full-time mom and manage a family in many ways that some men don't have to. Right. I think that's incredibly challenging. You do such a good job. I've met your kids and they're lovely and your husband is fantastic. What advice could you give to someone that's kind of struggling with that right now? And it's never easy. So everyone struggles with it.
Everyone struggles with it. I mean, I've definitely showed up at birthday parties when they were ending and I thought the end time was the beginning time. So I mean, it's definitely not always unmessy, but I think just having delegation skills, which, for me, it was very difficult because I knew I could get it done faster the way I wanted it. But, if somebody else can do it for you 80% as well as you could do it yourself, then delegate that task. So I think getting help is, and getting great help, I think is very important. I think that having certain expectations for your kids to meet. So, for example, they know how to cook for themselves. They know how to do their own laundry. They know to make their beds. There's certain things that, and I never have to tell them, did you study for your test? They know that there's certain expectations. And I always tell them, if you weren't capable, I would not make you do these things, but you are capable. So I'm going to hold you to that. So I think just raising that sort of child that's independent, that's going to come talk to you when they need help, and that's going to, come cuddle with you and all of those things, great. But letting them do their own thing and sort of, making mistakes and figuring out, oh my God, I forgot to study for that test, or I left that thing at home. You left it at home. So you're going to have to explain to your teacher why you left it at home. And if your grade suffers for that, that's fine. You won't forget to do that again. So I think it's just not about coddling a lot of the times and just sort of letting them do their thing and learning from it.
Yeah.
It's help, right? It's help, whether your kids are helping themselves, so you're not responsible. And also, I think organization of mind and efficiency in what you do is very important in work-life balance. I always give this stupid analogy, but, when I'm approaching Ralph's and I have to push the button for the ticket to come out before I can get into the parking lot, when I'm approaching, I'm pushing the window so it's going down. I'm reaching my hand out so that I can grab the ticket with barely even stopping my car. So it's literally, imagine that multiplied by 1,000 every single day in every task that I do. Even in the operating room, I don't ask for something when I need it. I ask for something 30 minutes before I need it to make sure it's available so I don't have to wait for it when I need it. So it's just that efficiency of mind. And delegation of whatever can be delegated that I think helps a lot. Now, I'll tell you, Shahin, something really funny. I run a conference as well, which is my nonprofit called Think Big. I had a speaker come and she does a lot of female physician talks. So there was a study in the U.S., not with the Persians, in all of the U.S., that even if the woman is the number one, the only breadwinner, so the dad is a stay-at-home dad, and the woman is the only one working, 80% of the household and family tasks still are completed by the woman.
I believe that.
Yeah. So I think it's also...
That's scary.
It's true, though. And I thought, I'm Persians, yeah, whatever. But, it's actually all women in the U.S.
It's really interesting. But
right.
I'm for some reason, I'm not surprised. I just think that there is a maternal instinct in women. I
think it's a multitasking skill also.
So I got to tell you something. Maybe I was going to say, you're very fortunate that you could multitask like that. I'm usually doing like 4 to 9 things at one time as well. And I feel like when I'm not doing that, there's something wrong with me and
Right.
something weird is going on.
Right.
So I'm all about multitasking. But I realized, because we have a very large clinic and I have a big life, there are a lot of people around me that can only do one thing at a time. And it's just, I'm not saying that I'm better. I can just do more at one time than other people can.
Yeah.
And some people do one thing really well at a time and then go out on the next thing and don't want to be distracted. But in a busy life like we have, I think that trait has been very helpful.
I agree.
Especially with the home and the work balance. Your work doesn't end just with your amazing surgeries and things that take you long hours and a lot of dedication and a lot of talent. Let's talk about your TV show. It was so entertaining, by the way. It was so entertaining. Skin Decisions. It was on Netflix last season.
Right.
Many people enjoyed it. How did that come about? And how did you like it? Was it fun?
No, I loved it. It was so much fun, and it was definitely, one of my major goals in life. So I remember being a 5th-year resident at USC in plastic surgery, and one of my attendings, was like, "So where do you see yourself in 5 years?" I'm like, "I'm gonna have a TV show," and he's like, "Okay, psycho," like. But I knew from very early on that was a goal and that I was sort of reaching towards that. So as soon as I graduated, nobody knew who I was. Nobody was looking up my name. And so I just graduated and I had a lot of time on my hands initially, and I just made a bunch of YouTube videos. I just said, what's the difference between a mini tummy tuck and a full tummy tuck? What's the difference between a breast lift and a breast reduction? Just all sorts of things. And it became almost like a media resume. And then not a lot of people were making videos, 8, 9 years ago. And so when reporters or media people were looking for an expert to go on, a talk show or whatever show it was, they would Google that. And you know how like when you Google something, it's the videos comes up?
Yes.
I was all the videos because I was like the only one making videos. So I never had to have PR. I never had to have anybody. I would just get inquiries all the time. Hey, can you come be on the show? Or hey, can you come talk about this? Or a reporter would call, we need a quote for this. And it was all from videos.
That's brilliant.
Right. And it also became like a media resume. So when people were pitching shows about whether it was plastic surgery or whatever, they would come to me because I clearly was proving myself on camera, and I showed that I could speak on camera. So I went through 3 pitches. I was actually under contract with E! For a full year. They didn't pick up that show, but the producer that was on that project, was involved with the Netflix show project. And when that came up and they were looking for a plastic surgeon, they're like, go get Nazarian. And so that's but it was literally the 4th show that we had pitched. And every time someone would be like, let's interview you for like Shaws of Sunset, I knew that I would never be on Shaws of Sunset because I'm just not that personality.
Yeah, I was asked to be on that before it started as well too. And I'm like, not
but
my thing.
Yeah, but you take the interview because you want to meet those people so that if they're working on another project,
That's
they will.
interesting. I did not take the interview.
I took it.
And that was
I was actually on the interview for 2 hours with them.
Oh, wow.
Or Housewives of Beverly Hills. Another one. I went all the way to meet with, the producers and stuff. Is that the show for me? No. But I got to meet a lot of cool people. So it's almost like dating. You want to take every opportunity. You want to spread that net wide. And then, everyone knows somebody.
I was a bad dater, I guess.
You're horrible.
But that's hilarious. So when, I got to tell you, very interestingly, before Octomom, we had a lot of people interested in doing a fertility reality TV show. And we even did one that came to my home, and they made like a 9-minute like little sizzle reel.
Yeah.
And I really did not like it.
Yeah, no, you have to like it.
So they were like telling, like, we had a dinner party at home. They were filming all of our friends. They were like, drink, like do shots. And I just knew that just was not for me at all. And then they started, right then and there, Octomom happened. And then like no one wanted to be touching the word fertility and running away from it. So it didn't happen, but it's still sitting on my computer. That's
hilarious. No, and that's a thing too, I think, with reality is you have to know what kind of show you want. And that's why I love Skin Decision, is because it was a very docu-style show about the real reasons and the real people that get plastic surgery. It's not this like circus, demeaning.
No, not at all. It was excellent.
Right.
It was very well done. It was tasteful and it was great. And I hope that one one day someone in my industry can do something like that, because there are so many stories behind
100%.
every single couple that walks in,
Right.
that can be done tastefully and that people could learn from, and also could, I think, make a phenomenal storyline.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's exactly what I wanted. And that's why I was just so grateful to Netflix and so grateful to our whole entire team for really just like being respectful and really trying to tell these stories in an authentic and, you know, heartwarming kind of way. And I think it really changed perception. Like, I had colleagues that live in different states call me and be like, 2 people came in for a facelift today. They watched your show, and if they felt like it gave them permission to take care of themselves in that way.
Well, that's so nice.
So it really just, I think, elevated the industry as a whole. And even our plastic surgery societies wrote up about it. And I think also a lot of people that sort of saw me in a certain way, because I was one of the first plastic surgeons on social media, and I did get a lot of pushback from our societies, ton of pushback from colleagues, people talking behind my back, talking in boardrooms, and it would get back to me. But I think once they saw the show and they saw that it was elevating the specialty as a whole, now everyone's like, okay, Sheila's cool. You know?
Well, they just didn't know. Okay, I knew. You know what? I'm glad you were proving that you're cool, because they should all be aware of that. So I hope to God there's going to be another season, and we'll all be watching, and hopefully it'll be a great season ahead. So we wish you the best on that. I really would love to talk a little bit about everything that you do on your social media. You're an advocate for Judaism and for Jewish people and for hatred and everything that's happening in this world, that I'm just in awe and can't understand in so many ways of why this is happening. I want to know what your thoughts are and why you do it and where it's going.
Yeah, I mean, I started kind of being very vocal about it because I was seeing a lot of anti-Semitism on college campuses. I'm an alum of Columbia University, and it's, I think, the second most anti-Semitic campus in the country, it was voted.
Oh, my God.
And the UCs, as you know, the UCs are very, you know, anti-Israel, and there's just a lot of lies and propaganda from people who've never been to Israel, never seen it on their own, and they're just sort of believing certain social media models, or, you know, people that are inherently anti-Semitic and have been raised that way. And my daughter was going to high school, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's like 4 years away from a college campus. They did a poll, 50% of Jews in college, on a college campus in the United States are afraid to say they're Jewish. 50% of Jewish students are afraid to say they're Jewish. They're afraid to speak up. And I was like, what's the point of college if you can't have nuanced conversations and meet people with different point of views and different religions and different races? And, you know, that's the whole point of college, is to really get out of your bubble and sort of explore new things and meet new people. And I don't want my kids going to college afraid of who they are and afraid to interact and afraid to speak. You know, and, you know, we came from Iran. If you said something people didn't like, you would disappear. Here you get whatever canceled is, if that's a thing. And I'm so excited that there's this like pushback against cancel culture now. And people are kind of sick about not being able to have conversations and not being able to say, you know what, I respect you as a person, but I disagree with what you're saying, and here's why. And so I'm trying with my social media to sort of bring that back. I want to bring conversations back, because our family left Iran to get away from that stuff, to come to the US, land of the free. And you should be, you know, free to have discussions again and not feel like you're going to be, you know, called something. It's like, okay, you disagree with me, tell me why. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, if everyone could just have those kind of abilities to discuss and talk, we would be in a much better place. I am beyond shocked myself personally and where the world is right now when it comes to anti-Semitism. But today I was watching something on the news about anti-Asian crimes, and I'm shocked about that too. Yeah. I'm just shocked about every single thing that's happening in the world in the last couple of years, which has been just incredible. Like I used to think that the perspective I had on the world around me was so incredibly different than the irony of everything that's coming up in the last 2 years.
I know.
And it's sad.
It's very sad.
And it's really sad.
But I think, you know, there's a lot of power, and a lot of people are speaking very loudly from a minority group, but it's making the majority afraid to talk.
You know, I don't know what the answer to that is. It concerns me. It concerns me, the silence. It concerns me that there's so many hateful people out there.
Mm-hmm.
It concerns me that we're not doing the right education at a young age to people to keep their eyes open to the world and not learn the hatred that's out there. And it also concerns me that I feel like in the heart of LA, that we live in a little bit of a bubble.
100%.
And it's actually, and our bubble has to an extent burst, and the city is no longer the city that we knew growing up. The people here are not the same people that were here. Everything. I was just driving on the way over here to do this podcast with you, and a friend forwarded me a Beverly Hills alert about another robbery on the stores on the 300 block of like Rodeo Drive or something.
No, my good friend last week was stabbed with a screwdriver in the flats of Beverly Hills at 2 p.m. in broad daylight.
Yeah, I heard about that, and it's beyond shocking.
Yeah.
Beyond shocking. Just walking to your car, suddenly get stabbed by a crazy person that's running around rampant in our streets, and we don't have the facilities to treat people with mental illness.
100%. And I think that's exactly where people lack in conversation, and a solution is really because it's a behemoth, right? Mental health is a behemoth, and it's not something that can be resolved quickly. It's not something that is going to get people votes, in a quick way. And so people jump to other quick solutions that might be a Band-Aid or might not be the best solution because it's quick and it's a good sound bite, and it's going to get some votes. But I think in Los Angeles, a ton of mental health facilities were closed down about a decade ago, and I think we're suffering because of it.
I just don't understand. So this happened a decade. I mean, I've thought about this so much, and sadly, I lack the knowledge to know why. If these institutions were closed, where were all of these people for the last, let's say, 5 to 8 years before the pandemic hit, and they weren't all over the streets of LA?
Well, I think there was also, you have to understand that, we have a different way of punishing people now with, Gascon in place. And so these people, if they were being arrested, if they were performing violent crimes, if they were doing theft, they would actually go to jail and stay there. Now they don't stay in jail, so they're not afraid of offending. They might get arrested and they're released shortly thereafter. So they're like, what, it's worth the risk. And so that's why there's a huge campaign right now to sort of revamp laws against punishment. And even the chief of Beverly Hills said himself, we keep arresting the correct people over and over again.
Wow, that is so sad and embarrassing for the state of California.
They're frustrated as well.
I can imagine. Well, I wanted to talk to you about something. I'm very curious. What is next for you? Because you always have so many exciting things going on.
I do. We're going to be... I'm actually in talks with some people about a new show, so we'll see. I can't talk about it a lot now, but that's one thing. I've been approached to write a book.
Oh, wow.
So we'll see how much time I have in my life for that. We're probably going to expand our medical spa into Nevada within the next couple years. So that's happening. And just a lot of traveling and speaking. I'm looking forward to not just speaking sort of for Jewish organizations and for plastic surgery organizations, but maybe in the business space or more of the tech space. Because as you know, it's not just about being an excellent physician anymore. You have to know how to sort of advocate for yourself digitally. And I think I've sort of mastered that little bit. And so I think it's...
And you are so good at it. I've been with you when I'm like, I should be doing that, and I'm just sitting here, and Sheila is videotaping every single thing that we're doing right now.
No, I'm not even like, it has to... I don't even do it out of force anymore.
No, I noticed that it's 100% natural for you, and it's just fun for you.
And if I don't feel like it, I won't do it, and I don't ever post my kids without their permission or pre-approval. Like, you have to be respectful. But I think that it is really important. I mean, where people are consuming information is social media, and if you're not present, you're not going to be seen that way. So, and also I think it's a great filtering tool. I always say what you put out there is what you're going to attract. So it's best to just be authentic, because then you'll be hanging out with people that sort of respect you for your core values and believe what you believe. And even like the aesthetic, like I only do natural results. And so nobody comes to me asking for massive breast implants or a massive butt. No one. No one's ever walked into my office with a picture of a celebrity and said, I want to look like this, ever. So it's really just about enhancing, refreshing.
What's the number one procedure that you do?
Oh, Lord.
Because as I was running out of my office, my nurse supervisor was screaming, ask her if she could do my mommy makeover. Ask her. I'm like, I'm sure she can. I'll set you up an appointment.
So I'll tell you, I'm about 50-50 surgical, non-surgical. We have about 30 devices in the office. And I always try out the devices on either myself or my staff. And for every device that we have, we tried 3 or 4 and picked the best one, whether it's less pain, more efficacy, safe for all skin types. So we basically like look at all of these things, and then we send back the ones we don't like and we keep the ones we do like. So I would say,
It's so fun, by the way.
It's fun, but it's also like
a lot of work.
A lot. Like, you guys, literally, full disclosure, I just came from the office. I spent like 3 hours doing procedures on myself. My face is completely numb. My booty is so sore because I did a cellulite treatment. But no, I do all of these things on myself because then I can speak to it, right? And I could say, this is going to hurt, but it really works.
Okay, so now you were taking me down. A question came to me immediately. Of all of these toys that you have in your clinic, which one do you think really works the absolute best?
So they all work, and it just depends on like the person, right? So we might have a celebrity come in that's like, I hate my wrinkles and my sunspots, but I'm filming right now and I can't have any downtime. We've got 3 machines for that. Or they might say, you know what? I have 2 weeks off during spring break for my kids. Just napalm my face and I want to like one and done, and I want to see you in 5 years. We have something for that. So it's like, and also skin types. We can't burn pigmented people, but you can do like a burn laser on a lighter skin type and get away with it, right? Without any like side effects. So I think that it's also, we have like weird things. Like I have a machine that makes you stop sweating in your armpits permanently. I have a machine that tightens the vagina and makes you more like have more moisture and not pee on yourself when you do jumping jacks after you give birth. So there's just like something for everyone. And I think it's just about downtime, budget, skin type, and then what anatomy are you presenting me with? So it's everything works. I don't keep anything that doesn't work because that's my reputation. And I don't want to recommend something that doesn't work and have people be mad at me. That's not the goal.
do men come to you as well?
Yeah, they do. So I always say for branding, you want to have one avatar, and our avatar that we're always speaking to is a very successful, intelligent, professional woman. That's the avatar that we're constantly speaking to when we do all of our branding, all of our posts. There's no like, get plump lips. Like, no, none of my patients would come in asking for plump lips, right? They want natural, they don't want wrinkles, but they don't want anybody to know that they did their lips, right? So but just because I'm speaking to that avatar doesn't mean you don't get all comers. So we have tons of men. They fly in, they drive in, they come from all over, and it's because they know that no one's going to know that they are doing anything. They want to refresh, but they want to look natural, and they don't want any stigmata that they tried hard in any way.
So are any of those toys, not that I'm asking for myself,
asking for a
really
friend.
Good? If a friend of mine has a belly
yes.
that does not go anywhere.
That's one of the most common, so we have everything from minimally invasive things to the most high tech in surgical devices. So I love a device we have called Vaser, which basically goes in and vibrates 30,000 times per second at the tip. So before we even start the liposuction procedure, we will put it in, and it basically releases all of the fat cells from the connective tissue, right? And it just starts pouring out like butter even before I go in to do the lipo.
But does it come out evenly?
Evenly, right. And then we also have 2 other devices that will actually tighten the skin while we're doing the lipo. So not everyone, like if a 20-year-old male came in, they probably don't need the skin tightening, but maybe they do need the vaser and the lipo. But maybe somebody who's gained weight, lost weight, gained
Like
weight,
my
lost
friend
weight.
that's about 50 years
like
old.
your friend. Your friend with really good eyebrows.
Yeah.
Then we would introduce a tightening modality as well, so that there's no overhang or there's no like blah, 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 blah when you sit down. We just want that thing to suck in. And it also gives a very smooth melt.
But I've heard it's really almost impossible to tighten skin.
No, not anymore.
Really?
Really. The holy grail has been achieved. But, I mean, it is in the right patient, right?
Right.
So if a 70-year-old came in, their ability to produce collagen, elastin, and to tighten the skin is a lot less than, let's say, a 45-year-old. And so for them, we might recommend a surgical excision if there is a lot of excess skin. But if somebody has some elasticity to their skin and they have good skin quality, then absolutely we could use a minimally invasive method.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. I think I could just sit here and talk and talk and talk and go on because like you are just a ball of knowledge and really fun to speak with. What do you want to say to the woman who's listening to my podcast that a lot of people who care about their fertility are listening about? What's the advice that you could give them?
Man, I mean, I think you mean like once they've been fertile and then now they're done?
No.
Or
A
just
lot
in
of people,
general
because
in
a lot
life?
of people listen to everything that I'm talking about because they're having issues with fertility.
Right.
You've been successful in your growth of your family and in your career. And if you had to take someone out there that maybe is listening because they're challenged right now for fertility, is there anything that you can take from your life that you could potentially recommend as a physician, as a female, as someone who empowers human beings?
I mean, I think that, everyone, this is going to sound terrible. I have a podcast. It's called A Beautiful Mindfuck. We were going to launch it very soon, but I just had a guest recently who had, because of fibroids, a ton of fertility issues. And actually one of her friends had a dream that she was going to surrogate for her.
Oh, wow.
And they actually had the dream. Her friend discussed it with her husband. They created a PowerPoint presentation of why they should surrogate for her. Okay.
Oh my God.
Because they knew that she would say like, no, I would never ask you to do that. That's like, whatever. And so they invited her over with a counselor, right? With like a therapist at this dinner to tell them why they should be their surrogate. And, my guest, she's a famous actress and, you'll see it, but she got very tearful on the podcast and she's like not being able to feel my, babies in my stomach or whatever. And to me, this is not the advice your guests want to hear. I think it's beautiful to have babies, but I think there's so many options right now. Like I've had so many friends, consider all options. I even had a friend who had 6 IVF treatments, couldn't get pregnant, adopted a child, and then got pregnant twice. She's currently pregnant. She's going to have her baby in September.
Wow.
Right? So I think like, thank God that we have you as a physician that can help people get pregnant. And I know you're very good at it. But thank God there's other things. And I think that, we shouldn't pigeonhole ourselves. And so anyway, I was going to tell you, my guest got really tearful and she was about to cry. And I got into the mic and I said, it's overrated. I hated being pregnant. I'm grateful for my children. I'm grateful, but I was also a surgical resident. I was working 30-hour shifts.
Wow.
Sleeping in the hospital every third night.
Oh my
nauseated. God. The cardiothoracic unit at Keck USC, if I get off on that 4th floor, a wave of nausea comes over me because my first pregnancy was when I was on cardiothoracic.
I don't know how you did that.
So I think it's so important. I think motherhood is so important for people who want it for a fulfilled life. If that's something that's important to you, go get it. Don't be discouraged. I would say, think outside the box. Whether thinking outside the box is IVF, whether thinking outside the box is freezing your eggs, whether thinking outside the box is surrogacy or adoption. I think that, having a family has such a bigger definition, and the way you give to a child and the way you mother and the way you parent has such a larger definition right now. And I just think that if you have that love to give, you'll find a way, and there will be a way.
Well, I just love what you said. Look at your options and assess them and do them. And that's the best advice that I think could come. It came more general, and for me, it comes much more specific. When I look at someone and hear their story, I could tell them they should be freezing their eggs, or if they should be freezing their embryos, or if it's their sperm, or using a surrogate. But I love the advice of look at all of your options and be proactive and be smart.
And be open-minded, and don't, there's no guilt or shame whichever path you go. I think like if you have...
It's a journey.
It's a journey.
And for some people, I always use that line, be open-minded. I tell them, please promise me. I know that you're saying that you don't want to do the next level of treatment, but I beg of people to please be open-minded because it's a journey. And it's a path to getting to your goal.
Right.
And it doesn't always happen the way you want it to, but there are options that can help you. So I appreciate that advice from my audience. And I really appreciate you being here with us today. I had so much fun talking to you.
Thank you.
This was fantastic. I hope that everyone who was listening had a really nice listening experience like I did. I feel bad keeping you here longer, or else I could go on and on. But I want to thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks, Shahin. It was great.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of the Fertilife podcast. And we will see you soon, and take good care of yourselves. Thank you.